Hi, welcome to part 6 in a series of videos about installing Windows XP. My name is Greg Johnson and this is resourcesforlife.com TV. So I'm going to continue where I left off, but I've been having some trouble getting the BIOS drivers installed. For some reason the installation thinks that the power cord is not attached. It is. So I'm going to skip ahead to Intel chipset. And let's go ahead and double click on the installation icon. It could be that we need the chipset drivers to be installed before the BIOS, flashing of the BIOS, will work. So anyway, in keeping with what I was showing you previously, we want to have the description chipset put in here before we expand these installation files out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And some of these things you really have to wonder, if the average person would intuitively be able to figure this stuff out without the help of, a technician of some sort. And so, anyway, that's why these videos are helpful. I'm going to go ahead and click Next on this. And this is Intel's software. I'm just clicking through these screens. And what you'll find is, as long as the drivers come with installation software, that makes the process a lot easier. If the drivers don't come with installation software, then there's another method of installing those drivers. You need to go into Device Manager and then say Update Driver and point to its location. And that may be a technique that we're going to have to use with some of these drivers for this system. And it looks like the installation is just about done. And as I mentioned, the order in which you do these may be relevant. Now here it's saying, do you want to restart the computer now? I'll go ahead and finish and let the computer restart. But as I say then, the order in which the drivers are installed, that may be relevant. And in this case, it was saying it couldn't flash the BIOS. I'm not too concerned about that, actually. I think that the BIOS may be sufficiently up to date that it's not going to be relevant, not going to be an issue, but in any event, I'll do some of these other drivers first. So, one thing you'll notice is with a clean installation of, in this case, Windows XP Service Pack 1, the computer will be pretty quick to start up, and once it's started, you'll notice that it functions pretty fast because, Windows XP, as it was like almost 8 or 9 years ago, it was a pretty lean operating system. And then over time, with lots of updates, then it became a little sluggish. So what you'll notice, possibly even in this series of videos, is how the operating system slows down a little bit by the time you get to Windows XP Service Pack 3. Well, I'm going to go ahead and click here on chipset for the O2 Micro, actually. So this is not Intel chipset information, it's O2 Micro. And I'm going to go ahead and click continue here as we expand it, and as I've been doing, I'm going to go ahead and put in the description O2 Micro and then chipset. Just something to describe what this is if later I want to run it again. And this process is far from being complete. Right now I'm just getting the basic drivers installed, and if you've been following this series along, you know it's kind of a long drawn out process to get Windows installed on a computer. Here I'm just going to go ahead and click Next. And from Service Pack 1 there will be over 100 updates probably. Okay, so there's something here. Safely remove hardware, display that. Interesting. O2 Micro allows us to display that or not. I'm going to say yes. But that's interesting. It says their drivers are designed for surprise removal, so it doesn't need to be stopped before removing. Interesting. I'm going to go ahead though and just say that we should, even though apparently this thing can handle quick removal and insertion of hardware, I'm going to leave the reminder running anyway because, for example, if the antivirus software is scanning a drive or if you're in the middle of writing a file, it's good to have that reminder to go ahead and really shut things down before removing hardware. So anyway, I'm going to click Next. It's actually the first time I've seen a message like that, but apparently that's part of the O2 micro chipset that allows you to do that. And sometimes when you're installing these drivers, you'll hear noise, the noise of Windows XP identifying and installing hardware. Now we're going to restart the computer. And you might notice when you install a mouse or a printer or a scanner, Windows will identify it and make that sort of doorbell sounding noise. I'm not pausing the video in between these restarts just because it gives you an idea of the real time that goes into setting up computers. And of course, one of the challenges is with older computers, the computer itself is probably worth, $100. And so the hours and hours and hours it takes to make one of these things run kind of makes them useless or without value, because it takes more time and labor to make the thing run than the product's worth. So it's really got to be sort of a labor of love from somebody, wanting to keep a computer out of the landfill and keep them useful and usable. Okay, we're on to the Connexent modem. I'm going to go ahead and expand this out and click Continue. And I'll go ahead and type in the description here. And again, these are not necessarily to be step-by-step instructions that are going to work for any particular system, unless you happen to have the Dell Latitude D600, right? But the purpose of these videos is to kind of train you or show you the general process that one goes through in making this stuff work, and to hopefully convey some of the kind of intuitive thought process that goes into diagnosing or getting around some of the problems that can come up when you're installing drivers. So there we go. It says that we were successful in getting the modem drivers installed. I'm going to click OK. As you've seen up to this point, some of the drivers being installed require a restart of the computer. Others don't. So this one apparently didn't. And I'm going to go back up a level. And now we will move on to the network card. Go ahead and double click there on that driver. And I'm going to click Continue to expand that out. And I'll put in here description. I'm going to just abbreviate it NIC, Network Interface Card, that's fine. Or you could put the full description, Broadcom 570X Gigabit Ethernet, whichever is fine. And there in the background we've got somebody with their car alarm going off. I'll just kind of ignore that. So the network card installation software is progressing here. I'm going to click Next. Go ahead and accept the license agreement and click Next. Click Install. Occasionally you'll come upon some drivers that don't have installation software, and you can just go through the device manager, which is found if you right-click on My Computer and then go to Properties. You'll see one of the tabs is Hardware, and then from there you'll see Device Manager. But that's how you get to that. And you can say Update Driver. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. Focus in. We're right at 9 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and finish here with the network card driver. You'll notice down here it says new network device installed, so that's good. And sometimes after you wait a little bit, the installation will continue. In this case, it didn't. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this segment, and then I'll see you in the next one.